Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Cup of Joy. I'm your host, Ariana Joy Christie, and I am so glad that you are here. This is a space to inspire, to learn, to grow, and to challenge. Get ready to fill your cup and spread a little joy along the way. Tiffany Saxton, family and wedding photographer, studio owner, and entrepreneur. Welcome to Your Cup of Joy.
Hello, hello.
Yay. I'm so happy that you're here. You are an important person in our lives, we feel like, because you've just captured so many of our very, very important life moments, like from Christmas cards to even Callie's birth, breastfeeding photos, motherhood photos, family photos, birthdays. Like, I feel like you have just been with us for so much of our life, and it's so impactful. And so I'm just so grateful that you're here and for our special relationship.
Yeah, me too. I know. I was trying to think actually when we met, and I think it was during COVID for your first breastfeeding session with the boys, and they were
For
like
the twins,
so little.
so tiny. And those are some of my favorite photos. I love them.
Me too. Me too. They were
It
like
is,
such a hit too. Everyone loved those.
yeah, they were amazing. And it's crazy to think back. Like, that was like almost 4 years ago.
Crazy. Time flies.
It really, really does. And Tiffany, this is your first podcast.
It is. It is. It's been a bucket list of mine for a while, so I'm excited to check it off.
Oh, I'm
So
happy. That's
thanks for having
amazing.
me.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So, I mean, I introduced you a little bit as a photographer. You are much more because you own a studio, you're an entrepreneur. There are so many pieces of Tiffany, and I want to dive into them all. But because I met you through photography, I do want to hear a little bit about how you got into photography. When did you realize that this was like something that you wanted to do for work? It wasn't just a hobby for you. And why? Why photography?
Yeah, so I started professionally in 2018. However, I have been into photography forever. I actually, like in elementary school, loved photography. For my grade 8 graduation, I asked for one of those, like, like little, like cool Pix digital cameras. And I just
Oh,
annoyed my entire family by being in their face all the time with this little red digital camera, which I don't even know where that is today. I wish I still had it because now they're trendy again. But um, anyway, so yeah, and then in high school, I was part of the like we had like a television channel, if that even makes sense. But our high school, we would air once a month. We'd do like a news channel, like a news broadcasting. So I actually got really into video and things like that. So all things
aw.
communications technology. But then somehow ended up going to university for social work. Don't know how that happened, but just thought, maybe it wouldn't be a career option. I don't know why. It just didn't really, I don't know. It didn't feel like something real. Like at the time, it was so popular too. Just, you go to high school and then you go to university. Like no one really questioned it. So,
Totally.
anyways, so I went to school at the University of Waterloo for that, and then ended up in the field, and I did really like it. However, something really always called me back to photography, so I started doing that
Mm.
part time just for fun in 2018, and like professionally for fun, I guess. And then 2020 during the pandemic is when I just kind of dropped every other job that I had and
Wow.
just went full time photographer. So since then, I have been full time photographer.
That's amazing. It's so interesting to me to hear what people study or what they go to school for. Because you're right. That was like part of like what you do. Like you finish high school, you apply to universities or colleges, you go, and then you work in that field. And yeah, it's so funny. Like I feel like if you actually work in the field that you studied, you're like the outlaw. Like you're like someone who's like, "Whoa, oh my gosh, you did that?" Like
Yeah.
nobody does that anymore. It's so funny. And it's hard because I think for people who have recently graduated university or who are finishing soon, they like feel this pressure to find a job in that field even if it's not exactly what they want to do. So it's so
Mhm.
funny cuz I also studied social work. Like I went to school for I thought I would be a social worker or I really wanted to be a play therapist. So I took child, youth, and families. And then I started a master's in counseling psychology.
Oh my
And now, like, here I am not doing any of that.
Yeah, I know, it is so crazy. I think it's becoming like a lot of people that I know that have just recently graduated high school, it's kind of becoming a little bit less common, which is good. Now people are going more into entrepreneurship and stuff like that. But like I know we're the same age at that time. It was like you
Yeah.
were the outlaw if you didn't go to university.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
wild to me to think, like, yeah, it's just so interesting how things work out and how I think passion leads it all. Like, if
Mhm.
that's something that you it's wild that in elementary school even you liked taking photos and now here you are.
Yeah,
Because I just loved people my whole life. And now like I get to work with people, I get to speak with people, I get to build those relationships, which was something that I always loved. So I think passion is really what pushes people towards what they're supposed to be doing.
totally. Like, all of my family was like, "This is where you're supposed to be." They're like, "Honestly, I don't even know why you
Aw.
didn't start here," but I think I value my university education, so I am glad that I did it, and I do have that under my belt, and it was social work, so I am still working with people, which is really good, but yeah, everyone's like, "This makes sense." So,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and university is such a good experience, like, I think you learn
Totally.
life experiences, you
Yeah,
understand deadlines, like, those kind of things, and
exactly.
some of those skills, obviously, from social work are transferable, like you said,
Mhm.
when you're having relationships, working with people, it
Yeah.
makes sense, but that's so cool, I love that it's always been something that's kind of been in your heart.
Yeah.
That's so neat. So how do you approach capturing these like authentic, raw moments, especially at like the most emotional times in people's lives? Like you really capture like meaningful moments often. And I feel like you have a way of capturing actually the emotion in them. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, so the way that I explain it, and I'll just use an example on for what I use on my wedding photography clients. I tell them this is not just a major photo shoot. This is your wedding day. I don't want it to feel like you're just having a photo shoot all day because that's not what it's about. And
Mm.
now, just having been married myself in
Yeah.
May, I feel that even more because like, I knew for myself, I loved just being able to be in the moment, and I want my clients to have that, and I've always kind of tried to emulate that, but again, now I feel it even more strongly, so I just try to step back and let the day happen as much as possible. And then that the same thing kind of goes for photo shoots. You know what it's like, especially for shooting with kids. You cannot get them to just sit and smile. You might get like 2 frames of like sit there and smile, but you know what it's
Yeah.
like. You have twin boys, and they're rambunctious, and you have like a
Oh
little
yeah.
toddler, and she's running around. It's not usually like that. So I just always tell the parents, let them do their thing, let them run around, tickle them, kiss on them, just have so much fun. And that's where you're going to get those more timeless, natural, free flowing photos.
Mhm.
There is a time and place for posed photos for sure. And, especially on like a wedding day, for example, you are going to get more of those portraits. But for the most part, you want to capture the rawness of what's going on, whether it's a newborn shoot or a family photo shoot or a wedding day or a birth, like photographing yours. You don't want to be in people's
Yeah.
faces the entire time. So yeah,
That's so interesting because you're right, like, some of my favorite photos that you have taken are when we're not all looking at the camera, we're not all smiling, like, we're really just,
yeah,
like, playing together and living how we do, and it's
yeah.
it's so funny because, yes, my children are chaotic, having 3 little ones are so wild, and sometimes I've left your studio being like, "Oh my god, she's never gonna wanna take our photos again. None of those pictures are gonna turn out. This was all for nothing," and then I get an email in my inbox that's like, "Your photos have arrived," and they're the most beautiful photos. I'm like, "How did you do that?"
Yeah, and honestly, everybody says that. Like, every time I do a photo shoot with, like, multiple kids, even one child, like, under 5, they're like,
Yeah.
"I don't even know if you got any photos. I'm so sorry. Like, let me know if we need to come back, whatever." And then they get the gallery, and it's the same thing. Like, actually, I was just thinking of, the one Christmas photo we did of you. I believe it was 2 years ago, and the boys were just running around like crazy, and, Mike, your husband, ended up just, like, picking up one of the boys by their foot, and it's, like, the best photo. It
It's
was
my
just
favorite picture, like, of all
exactly.
time. Mike
Yeah.
talks about that all the time too, because it's like, even though it was so chaotic, then when we got the pictures, he was shook. Like, he was
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, right, like, that looks like a magazine," and
exactly,
it
and
captures
that was
time.
real, right? Like, I didn't tell him to do that. He was like, "Just get over here and take this photo," grabbed him by the foot, and it worked out.
Yeah, literally. And then it's cool because it really does capture, like, the personalities, who we
Mhm.
are, that moment in time too. So, yeah, I can't even imagine, though, photos with children, like, on the regular, like, you are amazing. You must take a
Thank
million photos, like, how many pictures do you take to give out, like,
Yeah,
25?
Honestly, I, like, probably overshoot way too much, like, on average per session, and I don't know, maybe photographers will agree with me, I have no idea if this is normal, not normal, but usually for, like, a one-hour session, I'll take, like, 1,000 plus photos, which is, like, I don't know, maybe that is totally average, maybe that's me overshooting, I have no idea, and then of that, like, 1,000, usually I'll end up delivering, like, 150 to, like, close to 200. Maybe that's way too much, I don't know, but I have a hard time narrowing things down.
It is hard to narrow them down, and I
Yeah.
always appreciate having a couple extra to choose from because it's funny, like, sometimes I like my face a certain angle or a certain
Mhm.
way, and other people will be like, "Oh, no, this is the perfect photo." I'm like, "No, I do not even like that picture," you
And that's
know?
exactly it, and that's exactly what I tell my couples, or my fit clients. I always say that I'll include more because I know I, like, do not like myself in every single photo, and I'm biased
Yeah,
because I'm not you in the photo, so and also the reason
totally.
I capture so many is because I am trying to get those in between moments. So, you're not gonna get that in between moment by just snapping and then being like, "Okay, on to the next thing." Like, I'll be like,
Yeah.
"Run and do this," and I'll capture everything in a series, and out of that series, there might only be one really good one, but that one really good one is worth the extra 15 snaps that I took or whatever.
Yeah, totally. I can't even
Mhm.
imagine going through all those photos, though. You must get, like I feel like I would go cross-eyed.
I know, it's a lot, and there's, like, AI programs that help you, like, cull through your photos, but I can't use them because they don't pick the ones I like. I tried, it's
Totally.
maybe in the future, but for right now, I'm still handpicking them all.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, has technology changed to the way that you work? Because now all of a
Totally.
sudden there's, like, all these programs and things and, I don't
Yeah.
know, certain types of cameras. Like, how has
Yeah.
that impacted your business?
Yeah, so like I said, there is AI programs that do like cull through your photos and narrow them down. I personally just don't like them because I find that they're not picking the ones that I would have chosen anyway, or I ends up missing photos, things like that. So that
Mhm.
try to stay away from, but I do use it in editing, which is really awesome. So like
Cool.
Photoshop, for example, I don't use it to really add things in because I don't think that that's like super authentic, but I do use it to like remove things. So if we're at
Mm.
a park or a public beach, no one wants like a million strangers in the back of their photos. And yes, I can remove them manually, but it definitely helps a lot to just have AI remove it for me.
That's
And
amazing.
I find I'm able to deliver way more photos that way as well because it doesn't take me as long to do those hand edits. So it's kind of nice. It's a win-win for me and a win-win for the client because they get a lot more photos.
Yeah. That's incredible because sometimes there's, like, a beautiful picture and then you're like, "Oh," like that there's a beach ball in the background or something, and, like,
Yeah.
a normal person like me would just be like, "Oh, now I have to delete that picture." Like, I can't
Yeah,
use it. But
exactly.
that's so awesome.
Mhm.
Or sometimes I find, like, at wedding venues, there's, like, an ugly sign or, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like a parking sign or something, you're like, "No, like, this is a perfect
Yes.
spot," but you can't have that in the back.
100%. The
That's
most
so
common
cool.
things I remove is like outlets, light switches, yeah, signs, light poles if they're in a weird spot, things like that.
Yeah,
Anything that's
fair.
distracting to an image. If I look at an image and that's the first thing I see, it's gotta go.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that you can do that. Your photos also tell, like, a story, like, they capture the emotion for sure, but I feel like lately I've been seeing on your page too, sometimes it's like couple photos or maternity photos and they're like blurred and you really feel it and you can like tell the story. It's more than, just a photo. How do you infuse the storytelling element into your shoots?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a few different ways. So one way, if it's like a client that I've never worked with before, I do try to like figure out who they are as people. Everyone is obviously a little bit different. People's personalities are going to be a little bit different. Are they more
Mhm.
energetic, excitable type people? Are they a little bit more chill, laid back? Like, what's their vibe? And then I try to go from there. So for engagement sessions, for example, I always tell people like, let's go somewhere, let's do something that's actually meaningful to you. And it doesn't always work out that way, but if it does, like that's even better. So, let's go sit on a rooftop and eat pizza, or, let's go to the beach if that's like somewhere you guys go all the time, bring your dogs, things like that. And that I
Mm.
feel like just helps really tell the story. And then when it comes to families, like luckily I do have a lot of families that I do work with like once to like four times a year. I feel like you're one of those people that I work with a lot. So I really
Yeah.
get to know who they are, which is really helpful. So I know things that are more important to them, or things that are meaningful, or shots that are more important. And then another thing that really tells the story is those detail shots. So getting in super, super close. Um, if someone's holding their baby, like really, really like zoom in and get like their tiny fingers, like with your hand holding them and stuff like that
Oh.
just adds to the story. And then, like you said, the motion blur and stuff like that, if they're running, if they're moving. Yeah,
Mhm.
just try to make it feel a bit more cinematic, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I was actually it's perfect timing because I just did a photo shoot with you, um, for a breastfeeding shoot with Callie because I feel like she's so close to the end of her breastfeeding journey, and I'm, like, heartbroken about it, also excited about it, like, so many mixed emotions, and I just wanted to capture that for me to have. And so, I just got the email this morning from you of the gallery, and I was looking at them with Mike. Like, I was so excited. I was like, "Look at these pictures." And, looking at photos from a man's point of view is different than looking at them from your own point of view. Like,
Totally.
men are different, not to stereotype, but my husband is different than me. And he's, like, looking through them, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, look at these ones." And it was, like, the close-up one of just, like, from my neck to my hips probably holding Callie while she was
Mhm.
feeding, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, as if that's what he was drawn to, and I'm like, "That really does capture, like, it's like this embrace, like this moment,
Mhm.
and you can almost feel it." And so it's funny that from someone who is not artistic or creative and doesn't really have an eye for
Mhm.
that, he really was like that's the one that he felt the most inclined to be like, "Wow, look at that." So it
Yeah,
does really
totally.
have emotion and storytelling into it.
It just you feel like because it really, like it accentuates the intimacy of that moment in a way. So,
Yeah.
like you said, the embrace, so it almost feels like you're there, like you're the one being held if or, whatever the close-up is. But yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and you're right, the other elements or things pieces that are meaningful, like, whether it's a place or a piece of clothing or a piece of jewelry, like, in that
Mhm.
photo shoot with Callie, I wore the,
Mhm.
my necklace that's made out of the twins' breast milk, and so for me, it was like this full circle moment. She played with it almost the entire photo shoot, and the
Mhm.
photos that are close up of her, like, holding on to that is just so impactful to me to be
Yeah,
like, "Wow, like, look what my body did. Look at this, like, the 3 human beings in the world that mean the most to me." Like, it was just so cool to have that. So for me, that's, like, a big storytelling piece of that photo too.
totally, and that's the other thing too, like, what might be important to you is not gonna be for the other person, and that's why it is important to learn your clients and your, um, whatever you like,
Yeah,
or what
totally,
they
and
like,
I
I
guess
should
it's
say.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
and different for every person, no doubt. How do you stay creative and, like, continue to evolve in the photography space while still like, staying true to yourself and what's important to you at your core?
Yeah, funny that you actually just asked me because, like, literally just this morning, I was scrolling through Instagram and I was like, "Ah, I need to get back into, like, another creative shoot because I do find and I think
Oh.
every photographer, especially in the wedding industry, can attest to this. By the time we hit this point in the year, we're, like, a couple months deep into wedding season, things do start to get really repetitive, and you
Yeah.
definitely start to feel, just, like, a bit of a burnout, especially, like, a creative burnout because it's just you
Mhm.
kinda start putting yourself on loop. So what I really like to do, and usually I'll do them either in the winter, like late fall, like now when I'm just like I need to just do something for me.
Mhm.
I will, you know, try to gather some kind of a fun mood board, depending like whatever I feel like is like fun at the time, and then I'll go out and do a really fun photo shoot, whether it's with like a friend or a longtime client or whatever it may be. It's just I don't know, it's a way that you can kind of, like, refresh your creativity because there's no expectations around it because you're just doing that for yourself. This isn't like, a paying client or anything like that. She's like, "Hey, do you wanna come do this, like, fun photo shoot with me? Here's my idea." And, most of
Aw.
the time people are like, "Yeah," and then it's like it's just nice to have full creative range. Whereas when you have, like, someone wanting a family photo shoot or, wedding clients or whatever, there are those expectations. And it's not that you can't add in some of those fun shots in those moments, because obviously someone is hiring you for your style. So I will implement those. But in terms of like an overall theme, like, I have one that I've been wanting to do forever and I still haven't done it. It's like a car wash couple shoot. But every time I ask people, they're like,
Aw.
no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to like spray myself down at a car wash. That's weird. And I'm like, okay, fine, fair enough. So still, if anyone's listening and wants to do that, please hit me up. But just like things like that, right? Just like a really fun. One of my favorite shoots is with she's actually our social media person for the studio, but her and
Oh.
her boyfriend, we did a really fun barn shoot. I was at like a friend of mine's barn, and I was like, I saw this like window inside of the barn, and I'm like, I have this vision of like a bed in front of this window, couple shoot. So I just messaged her and I said, "Hey, can I use your barn? I'm bringing an air mattress. I have an idea." And she's like, "Totally."
Aw.
So yeah, so I got Silvana, and it's one of my favorite shoes because again, I had like full creative range. So yeah, I just got to get back to that sometime this this winter.
That's so cool though. Like, I love that it is really a creative, like, you are an artist, you know?
Mhm.
Like, we sometimes think, "Oh, a photographer is a camera, you take a picture," but really it's so much more than that, and so I love the creative piece behind it, and it kinda goes back to you, like, having that in you from a child, right? Like, I
Yeah,
think the creative piece and liking photography, like, kind of come together, and if that's centered around your why and why you do this and why it's impactful to you, then that totally makes sense to kind of spark that, inspiration in you again in
yeah,
a season that you're feeling a bit burnt out. And I think
yeah,
that a lot of creatives, especially, feel burnout
yeah,
at some phase or point in their life. And you kind of explain that it's, after like towards the end of wedding season when you're really busy and things are happening. Have you ever had a phase like that or an experience that's really been like, okay, I am burnt out and I really need to do something about this? And how do you deal with that?
yeah. So I think last year was like definitely the worst. I was also planning my own wedding, which loved that experience, but thank God that's over. So I just had like way too much, I think, on my plate, and I took on way too much. So I was definitely experiencing some crazy burnout last year. So in the winter, I took the time to slow down and do a little bit more for myself and more, self-care, because I definitely get to the point where, you kind of stop doing things even for yourself, even outside of work, like not even just creatively, like you stop, going to the gym. It's like, oh, don't have time, or, things like that, or I don't have time to go out to dinner with these friends, or I don't have time to go to this event or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely last year, starting to get to that point this year, but I feel like I'm really trying to like let myself enjoy things. So this summer, I definitely did that a lot more than I did last year, and I feel like that's helped.
Good. That's
Mhm.
amazing. It's incredible because so Your Cup of Joy, the title of this podcast was really because I was experiencing that through motherhood, like, and
Mhm.
trying to work and entrepreneurship, like all of that I think combined. I just had like totally lost myself. And it was kind of like what you're saying, like one thing fell off.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I stopped working out. And then
Yeah.
the next thing fell off. I stopped like prioritizing time to like shower and do my hair. Like I was
Yeah.
not that I was not showering, but that became
Yeah.
like lowest on the totem pole. It would be like,
Mhm.
okay, like when do I have 5 minutes and it's gonna be this fast thing and I don't get to like even shave my legs. Like it's these little things that really start like building up. And so I really realized, like, I had, like, a pinch me moment where I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not showing up as a good friend, I'm not showing up as a good wife, I'm not getting the work done that I want to, I'm not being the best mom that I can be." And so I wanted to just change the narrative of self-care being selfish to self-care being actually good for all of those around you because you really do become the best version of yourself. So, as an entrepreneur and a woman who's running a few different businesses, doing many different things, is self-care something that you really really prioritize and what's your favorite way to practice self-care?
Yeah, so it's definitely still something, I'm definitely doing a lot more now, but still definitely
Mm.
need to work on.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people where I keep, like, pushing it off, and I'm like, "Oh, in the winter," and then last winter, I ended up having an insane winter because I do have the
Yeah.
studio, and that was really busy. I feel like everyone was pregnant last winter, so I just every day it was, like, maternity session, newborn session, so I just, like, never really stopped, and like I said, I also had my wedding on top of it, so,
Yeah.
um yeah, but anyway, so, what I like to do, so number 1, is obviously quality time with my husband. I am
Mm.
working all the time. I live like, right now, I live an hour away from my studio, so I'm on the road all the time. We're both entrepreneurs, so we're both just busy, busy. So
Yeah.
when we can get, just a little bit of time to, whether it's just cuddle on the couch and watch a movie or go on a walk with our dogs, that is definitely always number 1.
Oh.
Even if I'm skipping the gym that day, but I get in an hour walk with him in the morning with the dogs, like that's good for me. Still getting in
Nice.
movement, but spending time with him. And then, yeah, I love the gym. I have definitely been slacking a little bit lately. Again, just the end of wedding season. I try to go at least 3 times a week. I'm lucky sometimes if I hit two, but I'm really trying. Um, so yeah, definitely I'm trying to get back into that. So the gym is really big, but like I said, if I'm not getting to the gym that day, at least getting in some movement. whether it's just a walk or bringing my little walking pad under my standing desk is helpful.
Amazing.
Uh,
I love the, like, I hate to say the word multitask because I think it comes with, like,
mhm.
more connotations to, like, burnout and doing too much and not taking time for yourself. But for me, like, because time is limited for my
Yeah.
self-care, I think if you can do 2 things at once, it's
Mhm.
beneficial. So I started to try to do that. Like you said, going for a walk with your husband and like it's moving your body and having time to connect with your husband. Those are like 2
Yeah.
things at once. Like I love grabbing a coffee, going for a walk with a friend. It's like you get a little treat, you get to move your body and you get some social space and time. I like joined a gym with like the same gym that my friend goes to and my sister goes to.
Mhm.
So then if I get to go with them, it's like, okay, like I get to connect and I get to move my body. And
Exactly.
so it's not to overwhelm and be like, you have to do so many things at once. But I think if you can do 2 things together that feel good, then it's more enjoyable.
No, I agree. I totally agree. Because, like you said, there are only so many hours in a day, and I know that everyone's like, if you wanna do it, you'll make time, but sometimes, like, as an entrepreneur, like, there really is only so much time, and you have the extra
Mm.
added on, being a mom. I'm not even there yet. I can't even imagine. I say that all the time, and everyone's like, "It'll just fit. You'll just do it," and I'm like, "I can't even
Yeah.
imagine having less hours than I do now." But yeah, it really is. I'm like that too. And when my husband goes to the gym, I really try to go with him if I can.
Smart.
I'll do the same thing. Just like we don't really work out together. He full transparency, double my size. I'm not lifting what he's lifting. I'm not doing the same workout. But even just going, walking in together, knowing that we're both getting in our movement and then leaving together is just it is helpful because, he kind of motivates me to get going, which is nice because he's like, I'm going, hop in the car or not, I'm going. So
Yeah.
it's easier to like, you know, hop in the car with him and go versus be like, oh, I'll go later. And then I know half the time it's like later,
Yes.
it never ends up happening. So
Literally. And I think even if you're not like, chatting, doing the same workout, it's still connection. Like you're still going
mhm,
together, there together, you're spending time together kind of thing. So
exactly.
I think that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the studio too, because
Mhm.
you own a studio, you are an entrepreneur, you kind of think outside the box, and I just love that so much. Where do you think that your entrepreneurial roots came from? Like what kind of sparked that for you?
Ooh. So I actually in university I became a nanny. And I know we've
Mm.
talked about that because you were a nanny as well. And
Yeah.
I understand obviously being a nanny is not an entrepreneur per se. However, I loved not having like a traditional boss type relationship or being in like a corporate role. It was
Mm,
definitely a lot more personal because I got, close with the family. So I felt like, I was my own boss in a way because if I needed to go away, that was fine, or like things like that.
yeah.
I loved not working like a 9 to 5, and then when I actually graduated university and got into that more traditional role with social work, and even that it wasn't really 9 to 5, but you had more of that traditional like there's people above you, people you have to call to, a schedule that you have to adhere to because this is the schedule they're making for you,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. And I just hated it. I hated, not being able to just like go somewhere on a Tuesday because somebody told me I can't.
Mhm.
So that's where it really stemmed for me. And then the second I dropped, social work, I just knew like I that's not for me. I need to be
Yeah.
the type of person to make my own schedule for sure. And obviously it's not just about that, but I don't know. I think that when you work for someone, and there's definitely pros and cons to both, I don't know. I just knew.
I think it's hard because in entrepreneurship and owning your own business and doing your own thing, it's glamorized so much online, and people are
Mhm.
always like, "Oh, yeah, like, you're your own boss, you can do whatever you want, you can have all this time off." But unless you have that, like, motivation inside you or, like, that hardworking aspect,
Yeah.
it can become this thing where, like, okay, all of a sudden you're just, not really doing any work, and then you realize there's no income, and then you realize that, okay, this is actually a lifestyle and not a
It
job. So,
yeah.
I think it's a hard balance, and I use the word balance lightly because I know balance is, you know, just its whole other thing.
Yeah.
I had a therapist once that told me that balance is not you're never gonna have balance because no 2 things will actually ever be even. There's
Right.
always gonna be some give and pull, and so she called it a blend. So I always think of that when I say the word balance, but
Yeah.
there is a blend. Like, sometimes you're grinding, like you said, like in wedding
Mhm.
season, I'm sure you're not having much time at all off. But
Yeah.
then there are seasons where you do get to really experience more time going to the gym with your husband, like spending time together, having
Mhm.
time to do the things that fill your cup. And so I think it's a hard, like it takes a certain personality to be
Yeah,
successful at entrepreneurship.
totally. I'm definitely one of those people that I always say, like, if I wanna do something, I'll do it, and I love
Mm.
proving people wrong, and I've always been like that. Like, I was one of the first people actually, I think, like, within my immediate family, I was, like, the first person to go to university and things like that, and,
Wow.
um, you know, I've always just been like that. Like, I'm like, if I wanna do something, I'll do it. Like, I remember, like, I was
Mhm.
like, "I wanna go travel backpack Europe for a month," and my mom's like, "You're crazy." And then I'm like, "Well, watch me." And then I did it, and then, came home
Aw.
with, like, no money in my bank account because I was 18 and, like, no idea what I was doing, but it doesn't matter. I'll do it. I'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, so and it's so true, what you were saying about, it's always a grind. I always say you give up working 40 hours a week for somebody else to, like, work 100 hours a week for yourself.
It's
But
true. Oh
it's
my gosh, I
crazy.
actually love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah, and I'd rather be I mean, everyone's stressed out. I talk to my friends that are in corporate positions all the time. They're stressed out about their job. Everyone's stressed out about work. But I'd rather be stressed out about my own thing than, like, stressed out about somebody else's problems.
Truthfully. Yeah, and
Yeah.
have the ability to, like, solve that stress. Like,
Yeah.
when it's somebody else's stress, like, you don't have the say to be like, "Oh, this is what we should do," but
Yeah.
you do when it's your business. And you talked about traveling, so how did
Yeah.
travel impact do you think that that, like, kind of sparked this, I don't know, motivation in you to want to do photography or to want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner? Like, how did that impact you? Because travel impacted my life so greatly.
Yeah, I love traveling, always have. The first, like, trip that I went on by myself solo was the Europe trip that I just said when I was 18. I was in my first year of university, and that just, like, kickstarted my travel bug. Before that, I had gone on, smaller family trips, Florida, things like that, but nothing major. So that
Mhm.
was definitely my first big one. After that, I was kind of addicted. I've been to I don't even know, I think, like, 20 probably not that much to someone who's a crazy traveler, but, like, 25, 26 countries or something like that at this
That's a
point.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many more that I wanna get to, and I will get to them at some point, but, COVID kinda slowed me down. I had a few trips that got
Yeah.
canceled, but, we're getting back there, we're getting back there. So, yeah, I love traveling, and now as a photographer, it's, like, the best because now I get to, capture all these things. There's so many trips pre me being a photographer and having the equipment that I have now that I'm like, "Oh, I would have had so many better photos if I would have, like, known what I
Aw,
know now." But it's okay,
totally.
we're
It's
there
cool
now.
to see the evolution of the photos, though, I think.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
exactly.
What is, like, your biggest life lesson that you took from traveling, especially in your younger years?
Yeah, so my biggest life lesson probably was when I was living in Kenya. I went there
Mm.
on a work trip for school, for social work. And definitely just it was a humbling experience in that I learned that not everyone lives the way that we live. And people like to think, and I think there is kind of a stigma of these countries that maybe, in our minds have less than we have. But in their minds, like, they are so happy and they are so like, they're living their best life for the most part, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
obviously, I know that that's not true for everywhere, but it definitely made me be so much more grateful than for what we have here. Like, it's so easy to just complain about, like, the most mundane things, and I still do it,
yeah.
and, I try to check myself, and everyone does it, of course. It's like first world problems, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go there and these kids are, running around with no shoes on and they're just like living their best life. Even the adults, like we had a woman named Joyce living, or she would come to our house every day to cook for us. And she was just the sweetest woman you've ever met. And she had a bunch of kids and she just was so happy with what she had. And she had, I think, like four or five kids. And she lived in this one bedroom, like, hut with her kids. And just the most genuine, kind, happy soul you've ever met in your life. So definitely learned to be a lot more grateful for what we have.
That's amazing. It's our lives are very similar because I also did a trip to Kenya in my younger years. I know we've connected on this before,
Yeah.
and it's just so impactful to me, like, the experiences that you have through your life obviously shape who you are, but a lot of it is the people that you meet and the things that you see outside of your, realm of life. And so yeah, for me, that impacted me tremendously too. Like,
Mhm.
yes, we have things here, but
Mhm.
the happiness that I've experienced in other places in the world is just tremendous, and it makes you really be like, "Okay, what matters?" You know?
Yeah,
So,
so
I think
true.
that's so cool.
Yeah, like, we
Yeah,
get
it's
so
amazing.
caught up in, like, this rat race and for,
Yeah.
what at the end of the day, because then it's like you said, are we filling our cups? Like, the name of your podcast, like, I'm working all this hours, but am I spending time with my husband? Am I spending time with my children, right? It's really all about
Mhm.
that. They
It's
work,
so
but
true.
they work to live, not live to work, if I'm
Yes.
saying it right, if I didn't mess it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I often think, like, sometimes when I'm really in the thick of it and I'm, trying to keep up at work, trying to spend time with the family, but work is overtaking more of my life and I'm not doing the things that I love
Mhm.
and that bring me joy. And I get sometimes thinking, and I'm like, What is this for?" Like, am I playing Monopoly? Is there something that what's the end goal here? Like, what am I trying to achieve? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Is it
yeah,
bringing me happiness? And it really starts to make me reflect and be like, okay, success looks different for everyone. And until
mhm,
you know what success looks like for you, you won't be happy because you'll be chasing someone else's version of success. And
exactly.
so I think when you really like narrow it down to what values you have and what matters to you, that's when you
Mhm,
find happiness. And that's when you're able to create this time to take care of yourself. And you realize that self care is
yeah,
important. And yeah, you just realize the things that bring you joy and you
yeah.
focus more energy into those. And I'm not saying that I do that. I'm saying I would like to do that.
Don't we all?
Yes, I'm a work
Yeah,
in progress, but I think that whole perspective really shifted everything for me. Like, what is this for? What is my version of
mhm,
success? What am I working towards?
yeah,
Um, and yeah, and it doesn't always have to be like money or things. Like, it can really be like, I want to have dinner with my family every night.
yeah, yeah,
How do I make that happen? And
mhm.
so yeah, I think the perspective is everything, and in traveling, you really do gain that perspective.
Yeah, and Europe's a lot like that as well, and I've spent some time there
Mhm.
as well. Like, my photographer for my wedding, because we got married in Europe, was is obviously European as well. So I hired somebody that was there, local to there. And I just remember her posting like, "Okay, I'm going off of all socials for like 5 days in like the middle of wedding season." She's like, "I'm just like, taking some time for myself, going on vacation with my partner." And I'm like, "You can do that?" Like, I
Oh
didn't even
my
know I could
gosh.
do that. But I'm like, but like in there it's so different, right? Like they'll get to
Yeah,
things when they get to things. Like which, I mean, we're just not used to that. Like, we're used to the North American hustle and bustle, so it is nice to see that
totally.
it's possible. We don't need to, kill ourselves over our jobs.
Agreed, and it's so funny because it's like, "Oh, can I do that?" But, like, who said that we couldn't? You
Yeah,
know? Like, it's
yeah,
so funny that we have this, like, perspective ingrained in us that we have to
mhm,
grind it out, and we have to work, and if we're not working, we're failing. It's
yeah,
so silly, and it's funny to really see that that's not actually the truth.
yeah, exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit about Park Hill Studios, how it came to be, and what that journey's been like for you?
Yeah, so, I'm actually there right now. That is my backdrop.
So pretty.
It so we started off, at, like, a really small location, and it kinda just kept growing and growing, and we kept moving to different locations until we got to where we are now, and it was under a different name before, but now we are Park Hill, and we're in one building in downtown Cambridge in Galt, if you're familiar with that area, and we have oh my gosh, what do we have now? 4 studios, um,
Crazy.
so yeah, which is crazy because it started off as the 2, and then just this spring or summer, I guess, we opened up 2 more on the 3rd floor, which is awesome. So
So
now we
amazing.
have an event space as well. It's like a, oh my gosh, 5,000 square foot event space,
Wow, that's
which
huge.
is, yeah, which is really nice. And then we have a product photography studio as well, which is a new addition. And we're just growing every day. We're constantly, trying to do different things, so I own that with my best friend and business partner, Hillary, and she's a florist
She's the
from
best.
Wildwood. Yeah, she's the best. Exactly. Actually, we met through her, which is funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's kind of nice because we're kind of each other's yin and yang, which is really awesome. So she does, if we do like floral installations and things like that, she kind of spearheads those. And then anything more photography wise, I kind of take over those things. So it's really nice. And our personalities are we're kind of like fire and ice, and we kind of help each other balance each other out, which is really nice. She's definitely
I
more
love
fire,
it.
I'm a little bit more ice, so we kind of yeah, we kind of bring each other up and bring each other down where we need to. So it's like perfect harmony.
That's amazing, and it's just so
Yeah.
cool because it's so unique. A lot of people, don't wanna mix, like, friends with business. That can be, like, a
Mhm.
hot topic, I think, that people sometimes think about, and just taking this different approach to photography. Sometimes I think photography is like, "Oh, okay, I to make more money or to grow my business, I just need to, have more clients," but then that is
Mhm.
what burnout comes from, and so
Yeah.
I think what you've done is create this really unique model. I mean, I see people taking photos at your studio all the time. I just
Mhm.
was, like, on Instagram this morning, and I saw, like, a one of the kids in my kid's class, the one of the parents had taken their family photos there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
know where that is. That's so cute." It's, like,
Yeah.
just so neat to see the community that kinda comes from that.
Yeah, it's surreal even for me when I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see all these people that I don't even know shooting here. In case
Yeah.
I wasn't clear, it is like a rentable photo studio, so I'm not the only one shooting here. I was driving down a road actually the other day and there was a big real estate agent sign. And the real estate agent photos were taken in my studios. I recognized like the back stairs and Melrose, and I was like, hey, that's my studio. And it was like this big sign on the side of the road. So it's pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love that. It's just amazing how you have really created community in this business. Has that been, like, a driving force for you, or is that just kind of something that has happened?
Yeah, so it kind of started off as we just wanted a photo studio for ourselves, and we're like, "Ah, if we can rent it out and, like, kinda cover some of our costs, then, like, that's a bonus, right?" And then from there, it totally evolved into it's like a full-blown community project in a way. So we're always taking, people's advice on, like, if what we need, what we should take away, what should we should add to the studios. We actually try to host events specifically for people in the industry. So last Christmas, and we're gonna do it again this Christmas, we hosted a Christmas party for people in the industry, because just to connect and to meet each other. We see each other, we all know each other on Instagram, things like that. But very rare do we get to see each other on wedding days. Maybe I'll meet other florists or other videographers, but I'm the only photographer at a wedding, so I'm not going to meet the other ones, and vice versa with people, other people in the wedding industry and just in our field in general. So yeah, it is really nice to just have like that connection with these people, and
That's
it's cool
amazing.
to walk through the building and I'll see people leave or come in and I'm like, "Hey, like I'm Tiffany. I know you from Instagram." And it is really cool to get to like connect to
So
these
cool.
people.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think the community piece is so big for me and
Mhm.
interesting to me, and just yeah, like, our world is big, but it's very small.
Yes, totally.
So, that's awesome. I wanna chat a little bit about Callie's birth because that was
Yeah.
probably, like, the most impactful event that I've had with you there. So, when I was pregnant with Callie, I just knew that I wanted to have these memories forever, and I wanted this experience to be different. My experience with the twins was quite traumatic, and I didn't know what to expect. I was a first-time mom, it was the pandemic, they were very early, we had a NICU stay, all of these things, and I think because it was so scary for me, I, like, blacked out a bunch of it, like, so much of it I don't remember, and I have a few
Mhm.
photos that the midwife took, and that's really it. So unless I'm really, like, talking about it with Mike and, like, he'll bring certain things up and that kind of, like, pieces it together, I don't really actually remember much of it. And so
Yeah.
with Callie, I wanted it to be so different. I wanted a home birth. I wanted to, be in charge. I wanted to advocate for myself. I wanted things to go the way that I wanted them to go.
Mhm.
And I just wanted more autonomy in that whole process. And I knew I wanted it to just be Mike and our support team, like our doula and our midwives, and I knew that I really wanted to have these memories forever. So I reached out to you to take photos of our birth, and I was like, "Is this weird? Like, do you do birth photos? Is this something that you'd be interested in?" Like, I know it's a big ask. So can you share with us a little bit about your experience and your side of it? The whole from asking to the actual birth?
Yeah, so I remember the day that you asked me and I was like I had never photographed a birth before, so I had been to birth, so I had seen birth before, but I had never photographed it. So I just remember thinking like, "Is she sure?" Like, that's like I just didn't wanna, like, mess it up, you know? Like, I felt comfortable being
Oh,
there in, like, that sense, but it is, like you said, such a big moment, and it's a one-time thing. Like, I can't be like, "Oh, sorry, I missed the
yeah,
moment. Can you, like, redo it?" It's like a wedding day, it's like that. So, um anyway, so I was, like, so scared, but I was, like, so amped, and I was like, "I gotta do this, like, this is so exciting." And I remember for, like, weeks leading up to your due date, and I remember everyone thought that you'd go early because you had the twins and all this stuff, and I think
everybody said that.
everybody thought you were gonna go early, so, like, for weeks, I'd made sure every single night my phone was, like, on the loudest ringer. Like
Oh,
it was like a ritual. Like I would wake up, and then like the last like week, I'd wake up like almost every single night, like 3 times a night. I don't even know if I ever told you this.
no. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah, you can even honestly ask my husband. I'm not even exaggerating. Like I would wake up every night, I would check my phone, make sure you didn't text me, and then of course you ended up texting me at like 10 a.m. in the morning. Like when you actually gave birth, I was like, all these sleepless nights for nothing. It was like mid morning.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I just did not want to miss it. And I am like an hour away from you because I'm in St. Catharines and you're in Guelph. So I was just like, I know I have an hour drive. Like everyone's like, baby's gonna come in like a second. Like, everyone had all these expectations about your birth,
Everybody
which
said
is
that to
a
me.
whole other story, and we know that now. But I
Yeah.
was just so worried about missing it. So, anyways, obviously, fast forward now, did not miss it, thankfully. Um, but I was so excited, and honestly, it was just like the best experience. I absolutely loved it. Um,
Aw.
I was supposed to photograph a friend's birth, and I did miss it because she ended up like her midwife wasn't even there. Her husband
Oh,
delivered her baby. So I have not, unfortunately, photographed a birth since, and I would love to. So if anyone wants a birth photograph, please hit me up.
it's the
But
best.
it was the best. Honestly, it was the best. It was so intimate. It gave me a lot of ideas for like my own future birth, which was really exciting. And
Yeah.
I loved connecting with your doula, and now I have
She's the
connections with
best.
them, which is super awesome. We're going to be doing an event with them actually in the winter at the
Yay.
studio, so a birthing event,
Amazing.
birthing mom event. So actually with
Aw.
you as well.
Yay.
Yeah, so we had to move that, so we're going to move it to the winter. So yeah, but absolutely loved it.
Aw.
Like, yeah, it was just so special. And I remember my like favorite moment. I was crying. I think everyone, your doula was crying. I think everyone was like tearing up. Was when you found out Callie was a girl. And I
I
love those
could cry
photos.
now.
I know, and I love those photos. Like I just remember she was like up on your chest, and it was like, oh my god, baby's here. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, what is it? And then you like kind of lifted up her leg, and you're like, it's a girl. And it was just like the best. And I know you would have been happy either way, obviously, but it was so special because you obviously already have the two boys. So it's just like this really fun, exciting moment. And yeah, it was the
Totally.
best. It was the best.
Oh, I just loved that whole experience, and it's funny because not that this podcast is about birth, but for anybody who knows anybody having a baby, don't give these expectations. Everybody, my midwife,
Yes.
literally everybody was like, "The baby's gonna fly out. This is your third child. It's gonna be so fast. Probably the midwife
Yeah.
won't even make it." Like, I remember them saying that to me,
I
and
know.
then I was panicked. Like, every day,
Yes.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, the baby's gonna come. I'm not gonna know where to put the twins. Nobody's gonna be able to get here. Like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do?"
And
It
then
was
I was
like
there,
this
I think, like 14 hours.
it was the longest labor ever. Like,
Yeah.
from the time my water broke to the time I gave birth, it was, like, 14
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
And I remember Mike being like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for Tiffany, like, she's been here literally all day." I was
And
like, "Did
I was
anybody
loving it.
eat?"
So I was loving it. I don't even think I ate all day, and I kept getting offered food, but I think I was just like so excited and so nervous. I don't think I ate until like I don't even know, like way later. The sun had already gone down. Like I was there like probably like 11 a.m. But like the second you called me, I was like out the door.
Oh
So it was
my
like yeah,
gosh.
like probably 11:30 by the time I got there, and then it was like sun gone down, and this was like summer, so like I was like it was like probably like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
maybe. And then your doula was like, "You need to eat something." So I think I like went in like the fridge and got like a slice of bread and like a banana or something like that. I was like, "You're
Oh
right.
my gosh.
I need to eat." But it's not for lack of like anyone offering me anything. Like you guys were great. It was just, I think I was just so excited and so nervous, but
'Cause
it was
there's also this,
awesome.
like, high anticipation that it's, like, gonna be this thing that's gonna happen right away, and you're like, "Oh my god, no, it it took so long." Like, we played games, we hung
Yeah,
out, I took a nap, I did my hair, like, there were so many things happening. It was
yeah,
wild. So, anybody that's giving birth, don't let anybody give you expectations because you never know.
yeah.
Everybody's
But
birth is
then
different.
my friend was the total opposite. She's like, "Okay, my midwife just
Yeah.
came and like, don't worry about it." Like, she just left, said it's not going to be tonight. And then all of a sudden, I swear, after I got that text message, it was not even an hour later, like maybe 45 minutes later, she's like, "So I have the baby."
Oh
Like,
my
what?
gosh.
So like, you really never do know. Like, you never know. Like, everyone said that for
No.
you, and then it didn't even end up happening. And then yeah, for her, it was like total opposite. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
you
really
just
have
never know.
no, you don't. And I think it was so cool for me, it was so amazing to have you there because we knew each other, but not, like, so closely, so I wasn't, like, people were like, "Won't it be weird if you have" like, I thought about asking a friend to take pictures or my sister or
Yeah.
something, and I was like, "No, I feel like this is, like, the perfect like, I feel comfortable with you. I
Yeah.
I've been around you for all of, like, big life things," but it wasn't, like, so intimate that I was, like, you know, calling you all the time or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like, it was, like, this really good, perfect relationship. Sometimes
Mhm.
people think, like, you have to really know somebody to take those photos. I'm like, "No, this was, like, perfect." And I was so comfortable with you, and yeah,
Mhm.
having you connect with Laura, like, my doula, was
Yeah.
amazing too. I had her on the podcast also, and we chatted.
Yes.
She's so amazing.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was just like this beautiful moment. Mike was comfortable with you. Like, it was just perfect. And I think because you've experienced birth before, that was what
Mhm.
really like made me be like, okay, you're the right person. Like, you're not going to get weirded out. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, what is that? Like, you had experienced it
Yeah.
before.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was just like this perfect fit, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. I'm so, so grateful for that experience. So, honestly, thank
Aw.
you for asking.
Thank you. Those photos, I honestly look at them, like, every couple of weeks. It's, like, this moment in my life that I'm just forever grateful for, and really having those pictures is, like it's just so beautiful. It's something that I could never have dreamed of, and now I'm so, so grateful for. So thank you.
No problem. And I just remembered too, I almost missed it in the sense of I went to Florida like 2 days later. And we got
Yes.
saying you're like, "It's okay, like, I'll give birth way before that because getting so early." And then it kept
Yeah.
getting closer and closer to my date, and we were like, my husband and I and some friends were going to Disney, and I was like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna miss it." Like, I'm gonna, like, be on the plane, and you're gonna, like, text me that you're in labor or something. So it totally worked out, like, everything aligned.
It was literally perfect because I remember, like, messaging backup people being like, "If I go over my due date, like, are you gonna be available? Like, can
Yeah.
I take photo?" And then I was like, "I don't feel good about anybody else. Like, I don't know any of
Yeah.
these people. I don't know what it's gonna be like." So, it was literally perfect.
Yeah.
Now I wanna hear from you. What is your favorite kind of photo shoot? Because you do weddings, you've done birth, you do
Yeah.
newborns. Your newborn photos are so cute. But what's your favorite?
Yeah, I would say probably anything to do with, like, babies, so, like, newborns, first birthday shoots, things like that. I do really love weddings too, and I do love shooting couples, and that's definitely, like, a close second. But I don't know, something about kids, like, I've always loved kids. I was in social work, as a youth and child and youth worker. So yeah, anything like that is, like, my favorite. Also, weddings are really, like, fleeting as well, so I do really, love photographing weddings, but
Mm,
something about, like, a newborn baby or, like, even up to a one-year-old, like, they change so fast.
so
And just, like,
fast.
capturing that is so special because, I'll do someone's newborn photos and, like, people are always surprised when I tell them, like, "Oh, between 7 and 14 days is when you wanna do the newborn photos," and they're like, "Isn't that, like, early? Like, I might still be wearing a diaper, I don't know," and I'm like, "Yeah, but, like, they'll change fast," and then yeah, and then this like, once they do the photos and then they get their photos 2 weeks later and the baby's a month old, totally different baby already, so,
Yeah,
it is so special to just capture those moments that are really so fleeting. And they're
yeah.
photos that, you as a parent are gonna have for the rest of your life, but also, those children are gonna have those. And then the other thing that I love doing, and I run them every single year, is my motherhood sessions, like my mommy and me's.
I love
And
yeah.
I've done, yours a few times with the boys and with Kelly, and I think those are so special because looking back at my own photo albums and like most moms, I feel like can relate to this. Dads just don't take enough photos of moms and babies. They just don't. They're busy. They're preoccupied. I'm not even a mom, and I have like 10,000 photos of my husband and my dogs, and I
Yeah,
like don't think he's ever once taken a picture of me and my dogs. Like
literally.
they just don't think about it, and like that's fine. But that's why I don't even do Father's Day sessions. I think I tried once and like no one even signed up, so I'm like not even gonna bother. Dad's got enough photos on the reg,
Yeah.
but I love running as many sessions for just moms and babies because it is so
Aw,
special. And I know looking back at my own photo albums, I barely have any photos of just me and my mom, like barely any. So I want to be able to give, those moms that, but also those children that because it is special. I wish I had more of those of me and my mom.
totally. They're my some of my favorite photos for sure, and those are special moments that you're right, like, that time is fleeting. They
Hmm.
look so different now, and
Hmm.
again, you feel because especially when they're over the age of 1, they're moving so much. So the photos
Yeah.
aren't just you sitting there taking a photo smiling, like,
Yeah.
you feel the emotion, you can see their personalities in these
Hmm.
photos, and I think that's just so special. And I think because you nannied, like, you're just so good with kids. The kids feel
Thank you.
comfortable around you, and you just
Yeah.
capture them as they are. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly, and, like, if they're, doing like, usually I'll prompt them if, like, I need them to do something, but it's not, "Oh, sit there and smile at me, say cheese," like, it's usually like, oh, run and give mommy a hug or things like that. And it just makes it a lot more fun for them and for the parents. So
Aw, it's amazing.
yeah.
Now, I know we chatted just a tiny bit about your wedding. Recently, you were married, and as a wedding photographer, I can't even imagine the stress that that would be of like, "I like this, I don't like this. I've seen so many things." Like, what do you do? It's like being in the industry. I just can't even imagine how you would do your own wedding, and it
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, so beautiful. You guys have to go on Tiffany's Instagram and check out her wedding photos. Like, if that's not wedding inspo, I don't know what is. Um, but I wondered if you could give one piece of advice to brides out there because you experienced
Yeah.
it yourself, but you also experience it as a photographer in your work. So what's one piece of
Mhm.
advice you would give all brides?
My one piece of advice is just do what you wanna do. It's your day and your husband's day or your wife's day or whoever your partner is. It is not about anybody else, and it's definitely so easy to fall into the trap of, like, parents wanting this or sibling wanting this or whatever it may be, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's your day, and I had to, remind people a few times. I'm like, "I want you to be part of this day so badly, but this is what we really want," and we stuck our grounds. And I'm so glad that we did. Like, I'm so glad that we ended up
Aw,
doing destination. I'm so glad that we chose to go non-traditional with certain things or more traditional with other things. I didn't just follow trends because they were trends. I did things that I wanted to do because I wanted to do them. And I cannot stress that
amazing.
enough. Just do what you want to do because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to be happy that day.
I love that so much, and it's true, like, you're gonna have these memories for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
This is, like, one day that you can really put yourselves first,
Yeah.
and I think that's so important. One piece of advice that a friend gave me that I loved and used was that a wedding day goes fast. Like things
Yeah.
happen, you're busy, you're talking to everyone, it goes really quickly. And they said to have like a safe word with your partner
Yeah.
that anytime, no matter what's happening, if you say that, you guys go and you have like a quiet moment to yourselves so that you really get to
Yeah.
experience the day together instead of, you know, just with everybody else doing what other people want. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I
I
think
love
that's
that.
so important. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
It
cute.
does go fast.
So fast, like, it's what you blink and the day's over. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, to end, I always do
Yeah.
some rapid fire questions. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. Of course.
Okay, favorite food?
Favorite food? Ooh, probably tacos.
Oh, yum. Favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, probably, The Rescuers. It's an old Disney movie, super random, but
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch
yeah.
that. Coffee or tea?
Oh, tea. I can't do caffeine.
I feel like you're the first person that said that. That's amazing, wow. And a song you could listen to on repeat?
Oh, it's, like, super basic, but Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. I don't know why, it's just connected to a lot of good memories, that's why.
Love.
But
I love that so much. So, Tiffany, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? Where can they see your beautiful photos?
yeah, so on Instagram, I'm Tiffany Lynn Photos, and my website is just tiffanylynn.ca. Make sure you do .ca or it'll bring you to some Michigan photographer.
Okay, perfect. We'll link it all, in the show notes too. Thank you so much for joining us, Tiffany.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Cup of Joy. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. And if this episode resonated with you, or if you've been loving this show, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. Your support helps the podcast grow, it helps it reach more people, and it means the absolute world to me. So keep filling your cup with joy, and I will see you next week.